Welcome back to Bottled Up. I'm Andrew Allen, and today we're diving into the business of fun with Glenn Haggerty, the Chief Development Officer and Managing Partner of Gulf Island's Waterpark. Glenn's journey took him from LSU baseball fields to building one of the Gulf Coast's premier water parks. In this episode, you'll get a behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to own and operate a successful water park, leadership lessons learned both on the field and in business, and a few insider tips for making the most out of your next water park visit. Whether you're curious about entrepreneurship, fascinated by hospitality, or just looking for the best day to avoid water slide lines, this one's for you. Let's get into it. Welcome to another episode of Bottled Up. Today, my very special guest is Mr. Glenn Haggerty, Chief Development Officer and Managing Partner of Gulf Island's Water Park. Glenn, thanks for coming on the show.
Andrew, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, Glenn, I'm very interested in the world of water park ownings. An owner of a water park, it's a very niche club, I would imagine, and that you guys kind of all know one another as things happen when you're involved in something that niche. But I want to talk first about what the road that got you to where you are today. So, Glenn, did you grow up in Louisiana?
Yes, I'm native of New Orleans, born and raised there. Traveled a little bit, but for the most part, I've lived in New Orleans the majority of my life.
Okay, so growing up in New Orleans, what were you interested in as a kid, and where did you end up going to school, if you went to school? And kind of let's talk about the journey that got you to be where you are right now.
Sure. Well, I grew up in a house with three older brothers, and my dad was into sports. We primarily grew up a sports household. So that was my hobby. That was my life really through high school and into college. I played baseball primarily, all sports growing up. But having three older brothers, you can imagine, I was always competing against them. And
Hmm.
it was great, you know, in the moment, not so great. You got three older brothers beating up on you, and yeah, it's what you would think a household with four boys is.
That kind of forms you kind of as a person to kind of always be willing to get back up and grind, I would imagine.
It does it. There was a lot of benefits to it. I mean, obviously, my parents were unbelievable parents, great family structure, grandparents on both sides. So very blessed, very fortunate to have all of that. And then, you have your three older brothers who you spend, that's your best friends, that's who
Yeah,
you grow up. I mean, to this day, I'm still fortunate to have all of them with me. And, we talk all the time and we're best friends. And
that's
so,
fantastic, man.
yeah. So, and there's a little bit of an age gap between me and them. I was always competing against them, punching above my weight, if you will. And so it was nice to always have somebody better than you and something to strive for. And I looked up to them. And so by the time that I got to, say, high school and I'm kind of on my own and doing my own thing, those days and years with them fighting and really always having somebody pushing you really helped me. And in a lot of ways, it has defined me. I still, in a lot of ways, I still look at myself as a younger brother, the
Yeah,
baby in the family. I
right.
don't think that ever goes away.
I think you're right. I think that it basically, like you're saying, it's you're always going to have something to prove, right?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, yes, no doubt. And then so I was fortunate enough to go to college to play baseball. I played at LSU for a year and a half. I hurt my shoulder, but those years playing really were invaluable. It taught me that a lot of other players are better than you. Uh,
Mhm.
I mean, we had some unbelievable players there, but playing for someone like Skip Bertman at the time was really has a lasting effect on you, right? And so you get to see what genius is. You get to see because he was truly a genius, not only baseball but in business. You can just see how successful he was and he was going to be. I got there in '88, so he had only been there for 4 years. So you knew what was going to happen just being
Yeah.
around him. And so just, being in the presence of people like that, a lot of major league, guys that were going to go on to play major leagues. And so, just being around success breeds success. And I was able to kind of take that experience through childhood and through college. I was not a great student. I needed to grind, as you said earlier. That's kind of how I started my professional career after that.
Okay, so you go to school to play at LSU and you hurt your shoulder a year and a half in. What was the pivot or the game plan after that? What were you interested in besides, sports?
I had to figure it out.
That must have been tough, man.
There was transition and in a lot of ways. I mean, frankly, I was a knucklehead. I mean, I can say that now. And, it's much different, but you see professional athletes when they retire, they don't know what to do.
Right.
I've just spoke with one as you and I have talked before, I do something similar to this in the production world, and I was fortunate enough to be a part of a production with a NFL player who's about to retire. And this conversation came up, and it's the same thing. You just don't know what to do, especially at that age. I was only 20 years old, so I had to figure it out.
Do you think, Glenn, that I mean, to play on that high of a level and I mean even in college level, right? Do you think it's the amount of effort and time and mental anguish that you have to dedicate to get to that level? There's no room for anything else?
To be successful, absolutely. It's one of the things you learn very quickly when you step up from high school to college, especially, I mean, my freshman year, we were ranked number one in the nation preseason.
Wow.
And so you realize real quick, I mean, this is in 88, 89, right? And so it was a business then, much less today. I mean, I can't imagine what it's like today, but you have to have a single focus to be successful. I admire a lot of the guys that can do well academically and athletically. Until you're part of that and understand the hours that it takes and the discipline,
Hmm.
I have so much respect for guys that can do that. And then once you get to the, professionals, that's your livelihood. That's it. And so you do learn that. And I had to figure out how to shift and move that thought process. If I'm all in on baseball and, it's no longer there, what am I all in on? And
Right.
that's the part that I really struggled with.
What did you eventually end up kind of taking up as that amount of time that you had free now because you're injured? What was the thing that you kind of took up? I mean, I imagine, being like you described a quote unquote knucklehead, that there's lots of things that you can do. And I know what I did because I was a very similar knucklehead. I just didn't play baseball. I just like to be, I was a full-time knucklehead.
Right.
And so I basically was like, all right, what's the path of least resistance? I kind of already had a predestined plan that I was going to come back and work for the company that, I'm at currently. And so what can I do that's the path of least resistance that I kind of have a talent for? And that was business and marketing. So what did you find out that you wanted to do?
Yeah, well, I found out very quickly that school was not for me.
Got it.
Um, yeah, I mean, I fumbled around at LSU after playing because I did poorly while playing. They politely asked me to leave. I came back and I was better. I had more time, a little bit older, a little bit more disciplined, but
Mhm.
school was not for me. I was very fortunate. I started working at a company called Kinko's,
Yep.
and Kinko's now, is bought up by FedEx and FedEx office, but right place, right time. My cousin and a girl I was dating at the time both worked for Kinko's in Baton Rouge. And so they were working at the campus store. I went to go work at the downtown store, which is more of a business corporate. Did that, and I immediately learned that I was really good at it. Whatever that was, I was really good at it. My leadership skills from baseball kind of, you know, transferred over into that environment. The way
Okay.
that business worked, it was very much like a kitchen almost. We used to, I worked 15 years for Kinko's and moved up from slinging copies in college to being a general manager of a store and a little bit of a regional manager as an interim for a minute. And so the leadership skills of being a captain playing baseball or sport, that really helped me get into management very quickly. Had to move around. I was living in Dallas and caught lightning in a bottle with the company. They were taking off. They were transitioning from campus stores to more corporate stores.
Hmm.
And I just, their growth aligned with where I was, and it just took off for me. And I found something that I was really good at, and that was basically managing a team of people to accomplish a task every day. And nothing more than that. I mean, it applies in any business, right? And so I just spent 15 years doing that. I got into some sales because I knew I needed to personally develop. And that's kind of how I shifted from my early life. And it's funny, there are people who I grew up with that only know me as a baseball player. There are people that have, I've met along the way as an adult, and they have no idea I played baseball. It's two different worlds for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's quite interesting when one hears about the other.
It's like an era, like you have separate eras, right? So, Glenn, let me ask you about leadership when it comes to working at anywhere, like you said. I've noticed that people who have an uncanny ability to identify the strengths and weaknesses of the people around them and put them in a place where they have the highest probability of success is basically in a nutshell what leadership is. Also, what motivates that person? How do you discipline certain people compared to other people? How do you utilize skills and talents? Like, is that kind of what you were really, really good at? Is getting in a room and being like, okay, I can tell right now that that guy is really good at that. He needs to be handling X. Is that what you were
Yeah,
good at, or what was your particular style of leadership? Because you came from the sports background, right? So everybody on the team knew who was good at what.
you find your role very quickly, right? And that changes too. Like in high school, I started playing with the varsity team as a freshman and sophomore, right? And you take a back seat. You just play and you listen and you observe. And then by the time you get to be a senior, that you assume those leadership responsibilities. It just kind of comes with it. And in business, it's the same thing. One of the things that I was very good at with Kinko's is taking over a new store, and which I think requires a lot of what you were just saying, Andrew. You have to see, you have to look around, and you have to see who's good at what, and being able to put them in the right place to succeed.
Yeah.
What one of the things too, as in business, it was something that was taught to me at a seminar. You go to seminars and you try to pick up little bitty things, and some things stay with you for a lifetime. You don't really think about it in the moment, but some things prove to be true. And we were just talking about it the other day. It was introduced to me as a rule of 33, and I think it applies to the question, Andrew,
Okay.
which is hypothetically you walk into a business to take over and you've got 100 employees. The reality of it is that there's probably 33% that aren't equipped to do the job. And it could be because it was a bad hire. It's a different stage of their life. It could be anything, but you have to identify those people. And then there's another 33% that are just great. No matter what you do as a leader and as a manager of the business and them, they're going to succeed. And
Right.
really, you have to be there to make sure that you're supporting them, patting them on the back. And then there's the middle third. That's where you earn your money, if you will. You have to manage them to make sure that they get up to the top third and they don't fall to the bottom third. And the bottom third is you got to identify quickly and either put them in a and try to put them in a position to succeed, or politely, find another place for them.
Yes.
And that's the hardest part of any management job, is letting people go. But for the business sake and for them long term, you have to identify that this isn't the right place for them. And
That's
so that has always been as I've gotten older, I've learned that that's my job in a nutshell. It's finding good talent, recognizing when you made a mistake and moving on, and then support and really challenge people to be their best. And that last one's probably the toughest one for me, is to constantly challenge people. People want to be managed. You hear it often in sports. Good players want to be coached and they want to be coached hard. And it is true. But you got to know when to push and when to pull.
Yeah, that's a very interesting way to look at it. There's a lot of truth behind that as well, and noticing and recognizing those three segments. And on an individual basis too, recognizing like what's the percentage chance that this person's going to move from one segment to the other, right?
Right. Throughout my year, I've been in the top third, I've been in the middle third, and I've been in the bottom third. I mean, that's just the reality. Life changes. You're in different situations. I've had jobs that I was perfect for, and I've had jobs that I was terrible for. And so it's also incumbent upon you to know that this isn't a good fit for me. Let me go find something else.
Right.
You know it. Genuinely, most people know it. I'm sure in your world you've had to terminate somebody, and it's kind of like you are both, everybody knows that it wasn't the right time, right fit, what have you.
Yeah, I'm really blessed when it comes to my core group of guys that the way that we operate is they can speak as freely as possible.
Yep.
I was raised amongst almost all of them. They're 20-year guys, 25-year guys. I have a guy who's been here with worked at this company for 42 years. So like some of them were in the hospital when I was born, right? So it's
That's a unique experience, no doubt.
it is. And so they will come to me and say, "Hey, we have a problem with XYZ. And I wanted to let you know, and I want your opinion. This is what I'm thinking about doing. What do you think I should do?" And we talk it out. So there is some of it I know that's going on where it's like, "Hey, we want to hide the bad stuff and shine a bright light on the good stuff." You know what I mean?
Sure.
And that's just the nature of the beast. But if it gets real bad, they'll come to me and they'll say, "Hey, we have a problem, and we can figure it out normally." But
You're bringing up something that's interesting because when I started managing people from a business standpoint, I was 21 years old, 22 years old, and everyone was older than me. And
mhm.
so, that's much different than today. Fortunate I'm still kicking, but everyone's younger than me now. And so how you manage is much different. And the world has changed, right? And so you don't manage everyone the same,
Nope.
and you have to recognize that. So that's an interesting point by you. Your dynamic is much different than just walking into something brand new. You've got, lifelong relationships.
Glenn, what you're talking about, Glenn, is harder because like you're literally like, all right, they're trying like you'll have employees that want to test you, see where your boundaries are. You'll
Yeah,
have, you know what I mean? So you're like walking in and having to set a tone. And these guys know me. I mean, I was like a little teenage kid on their trucks when we only promote from within, right? So all the guys who are in upper management, middle management level were route guys at one time. So I mean, I was like a 12, 13, 14-year-old kid on their route truck. And now I took over as GM next year will be 10 years ago, so I was a 31-year-old general manager.
right.
So I've always been the youngest dude in the room. So I've been quiet a lot. I listen a lot. My granddad always used to say that quote, like, it's better to be quiet and deemed dumb than to open your mouth and remove all doubt.
That's right.
And
Yep.
so I learned that very quickly that, like, unless I know what I'm talking about and I have a point to make, don't say anything. So this is an interesting business that I'm in. And, we're a tight group of people over here, and I'm blessed that I have an opportunity to come to a place that doesn't feel like work.
Yep.
But I want to ask you, Glenn. So you work at Kinko's 15 years. About this time, you're probably what, about 35?
No, I was actually, it was 13 years technically. Yeah. So I
Okay.
was in my early 30s. Yes.
You're in your early 30s.
And I started at 19 working for Kinko's, got into
Okay.
management at 21. Yeah. So I was in my early 30s.
Okay. So you're in your early 30s now. What do you do after that? What do you do after you leave Kinko's?
Yeah. So Kinko's was changing dramatically, and I could feel it. You start to sense it, and you start to sense that one, I'm growing and I need to change. And I also felt that there wasn't a place for me moving forward. So I left Kinko's because I moved to Florida from New Orleans because I was in Dallas, then I moved back to New Orleans, left Kinko's for a year, came back to Kinko's. So and I moved to Florida to get into sales
Okay.
with Kinko's. I knew the product, I knew the business, the service. It was pretty easy for me to just jump in and start selling. I wanted to do it in an area where I didn't know anybody. Sales doesn't come easy for me, cold calling especially. So it was nice to be able to go to a city where nobody knew me. So if I messed up, so be it. There's somebody else that, I'm going to go target that doesn't know me. And
That's an
so,
interesting mindset. for
Yeah, it
because
was a
cold
test
calling is like a muscle, man. Like you got to work that thing out to where you're comfortable in that environment.
for all of those years as being a manager. I had salespeople, and I knew the traits that the successful guys had, and I wanted to go test that and career pivot. And it's actually I met my future wife there, and so it was time for me to leave the company, and she was still there, and I had a viewpoint into to their business and where they were going, even when I left, and I realized it was a good move, and so I started selling for a media company. It was like a boiler room sales kind of a environment, and it was
Got it.
just not for me at all. I was more relationship. The way I sold was very relationship, earn their
Mhm.
trust, understand the product. I couldn't just pick out a name and call and sell them something.
It's like a
That just,
timeshare. It's almost like timeshare stuff. Like,
yeah, it was timeshare. It was, stocks, penny stock kind of stuff.
got it. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so it just was not for me. And I learned very quickly, that this is not good. And just timing, again, I guess I'm just fortunate to be right place at the right time for a lot of this stuff. My dad calls me, as my dad did often. It was a Friday night, and I was at my girlfriend, now wife's house, sitting on her porch, and I get a phone call from my dad, and it's a phone call I'll never forget. Of the thousands of phone calls I had with my dad, it was the one that just sticks in my brain, which is, Glenn, do you know anything about water parks? And, and so, how do you answer that question? I've visited a couple of water parks, and so we had a conversation. He was retiring, and my dad was in politics, so he knew a lot of people. He was always putting people together to make things happen. And this particular time, there's over the course of I think 2 or 3 weeks, two different people asked him about wanting to get him involved in starting a water park. One in the Bay St. Louis area and one over in the Metairie Jefferson Parish area in New Orleans. And you fast forward a couple months and I moved back to New Orleans and I start working with my dad, and you know that's kind of how the whole water park thing started, was just a couple of people interested in putting family entertainment in those two specific locations.
So, Glenn, you're starting off into an endeavor that is, it's a very interesting business model and it's a very interesting business, right? So, where did you even start? Like, I guess just thinking about it off the top of my head, I would talk to other people who've owned parks and just kind of pick their brain or go somewhere to a convention or something. Like, where did you start? Where'd y'all start?
Several of those places that you just mentioned, I was part of the development team, and I had no desire to operate the park. It was mostly I was going to be an owner, a percentage owner. I was going to really administrate the construction and development. And once it opened, we were going to turn it over to the people who operate water parks. That's not what I do. It's not what I know. None of us did. Uh, and so you turn to industry professionals, you reach out, you make phone calls, you hire consultants, as you do in a niche, business like you had mentioned, and you get good advice, you get bad advice, everything in between. You got to filter through that. And we got a
Hmm.
lot of bad advice. I never forget, and it wasn't like it was intentional. It was just, with anything, you're putting together something that is, it's a high price ticket, right? So everybody wants to be involved. It's very public, so a lot of people want to be involved.
Yeah, I can
And
imagine.
yeah, and so it was interesting to develop it. And it's high risk. It's high risk to construct it and develop it. It's high risk to operate it.
Is that just on a liability? Is that just on a liability side, Glenn, as far as like insurance and all that
From operating or development.
from operating?
Yeah, insurance isn't, early on it can be a little tricky because you have no experience.
Right.
And so that's where it helps, where you bring experienced people in that have a record that you can lean on. At this point, I mean, obviously it's risk from but from a cost standpoint, it's surprisingly not something that would stop you from getting into this world.
It's not like a road.
Um,
It's not like a massive roadblock.
no, no,
Got
no,
it.
it's not. Especially with the experience that we have, we're very fortunate to have run a very clean park, a safe park, and it's our priority. It's there's nothing greater than making sure your park is safe for your team and for the public. And
Absolutely.
so when you live by that, it shows and it reflects on your history and your experience. So yeah,
So you guys start development, right? How long was the process from your dad calling you on that back porch to, okay, we're starting to break ground on this thing?
8 months.
It's not too long.
Yeah. No, it was 8 to 10 months. And the longest part I think was really just the fundraising, just getting the money. And the concept all kind of came together pretty quickly. You outsource, you put a team together, engineers, contractors, what have you. A lot of it is, you know, you build a McDonald's, you build a hotel, most of the stuff is spec'd out already. There's some uniqueness to it. There's some things that you're, putting together to make it part of the community. But most of that's theming and naming. When we built Gulf Islands, that same model had been built somewhere else. There's a tweak, there's elevation differences, water table differences. So there's some adjustments, but for the most part, water parks they're not crazy creative, let's say, for the most part. And so we had a plot of land. And by the way, you know, Gulf Islands was a result of we were supposed to be moving to build next to what is Zephyr Stadium in New Orleans. And that went south right at the last minute. And at the time, the mayor of Gulfport called us and offered a spot at the Gulfport Sportsplex. And we kind of
Wow.
shifted over. And that's how that came to be. And so it was fortuitous for us. It's the emotions of business that, it's a roller coaster sometimes. And so we're all prepared. We're going into this meeting to sign, a long-term lease on a piece of property in Metairie, Louisiana, and it falls apart. And 24 hour, and we're in the dumps. We worked about a year in total, I guess, to get to that point. And the next thing you know, getting a phone call from Gulfport. I knew nothing about Gulfport other than driving through it to get to Biloxi as a kid to to go to the beach.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's
it,
kind of that. People are always like, if you go anywhere, people are like, oh, where are you from? It's like, oh, I'm from Mississippi. They're like, oh, okay. I was like, yeah, we're from the coast. We are from Gulfport. It's like, oh, I've been to Biloxi.
yeah,
That's what you hear. And it's casinos, that's what it is now. But well, so Gulf Islands is born from a phone call. Who was the mayor at the time? You remember?
I think Ken Combs, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. I remember him. Okay, so this is the early aughts time frame.
yeah. This is 2004.
Got it.
Oh, I'll tell you this: we opened 6 weeks before Katrina,
I
so it
remember you
gets a
telling
little.
me that.
It gets a little fuzzy.
Yeah, and then the world was forever changed, Glenn.
Yes, yeah, our world certainly was, no doubt.
So, few questions. I want to kind of get into the ins and outs of water parks and like some insider information. And you and I have had some conversations about,
Yep.
owning a water park, about operating a water park. And you guys, in my opinion, have it down to a science, right? So, you know what deals to put out when, you know how to track everything, you know how to make sure that the client feels special, you know how to make everything efficient when it comes to food and drink. So let me ask you this: what is, in your opinion, the best day or time to go to Gulf Islands Water Park? Are there any like secrets or tips and tricks that an attendee would need to know?
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday
Okay.
are great days to come. One, speaking of just kind of how we do business, we sell our tickets with a dynamic pricing model, much like airlines and hotels. And so the the cheaper tickets are going to be on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, simply supply and demand. And so you have less of a crowd. So from an experience standpoint, you get more of the park. You don't stand in line near as much as you would on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's a better value. You get a cheaper ticket. You get more playtime in the park, is what we call it, and the food lines are shorter. So to me, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is by far the best day to come and visit.
Okay, so that's good advice. That's really good advice. I want to talk about this too. So you and I had a conversation before when we were setting up this interview, and you were telling me that you spend a lot of time on the road, between your house in Chicago and where you live in New Orleans, and so you have a lot of time where you talk to people in that transient kind of environment where like you're just
Yeah.
arm to arm with a person you're never going to see ever again in your life, right? So, and you say that like you try not to bring up the fact that you own a water park because you're never going to get away, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, tell me a little bit about kind of the reception of being a water park owner, and what are some of the other responsibilities as far as, innovation? What do you see the environment looking like, or anything crazy coming down in the next 3 to 4 years? And how has it changed since you guys opened 20 years ago, or, 21 years ago?
21 years ago. Yeah, you're right. It depends on what kind of mood you're in. Sometimes in my line of work and what I do, talk to a lot of people all the time, right? Whether that's phone calls, business to business, whether it's staff, management, seasonal team members, all of that. It's a communication job. And so, and then, our guests, of course. And so in my downtime and my alone time traveling, if I'm on a plane or just having dinner with, you tend to strike up conversation. What do you do? And it tends to be outside the box, and most people are curious. Much like you and I have said, talked about. I'm curious to know what it's like for you to operate your business, but and there's not a lot of people in your role either. So
Right.
I think you can have an appreciation for, oh, it's a water park. And of course, most people just shift to, oh, that's got to be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
And
yeah. It's
so,
like
you know,
I wear crazy shirts every day. It's like,
right. Yeah. And so I want it to look fun if you see me at work. I want you to think that I'm having a blast, right? I mean, that's part of the entertainment of a park is
hmm
that we're having fun. And so, as a matter of fact, our social pages, I think we do a really good job of highlighting the fun that we do have at work because when you're in the moment, you are having a lot of fun. To provide hospitality, to create a lasting memory for a guest, whether that's one time or season pass holders that come many times during the season and multiple seasons. You want to express your joy of what we do. And that is all true and genuine. The downtime, look, it's a tough business. We're heavily impacted by weather, which we can't control. Our operating seasons are short. We're down to 85 days because of the school calendar.
yeah.
And so it's high risk. Some of it you can't control, and that's not going to change. And so from a business perspective, you ask how has it changed? We're doing everything we can to mitigate those risks. And so I spoke of dynamic pricing. A big part of that is buying online before you come, much like you would do at a hotel or an airline. Nobody walks into an airport anymore and just buys a plane ticket, right?
Yeah. Like in the movies, it's like I need a one-way ticket to such and such. Like,
Sure. Yeah. And very few people, other than, traveling in the middle of the night, having to pull over to get a hotel room, very few people book hotel rooms at the front desk. And so we've had to change with that as well. So we're providing value with dynamic pricing in exchange for that we can prepare for your visit much better. And we use that, advanced purchase all throughout our business. And so that has really changed, asking how business has changed. Instead of just hoping the weather's nice and people showing up, now we have a good idea how many people are going to show up. How do we plan? How do we
Mm-hmm.
manage our labor force and prep our inventory, all of that. And so we've evolved as a business with that. Technology has, not only the technology of dynamic pricing, but the technology with, it was a big deal when we started to build a website, and now it's all about e-commerce and social platforms.
Yep.
And so the one thing I pride myself on for 21 years of business is by scale to other water parks. We're a mid-sized to a small mid-sized water park that serves an hour and a half outside of our, pin on a map, primarily. We have been a leader in our industry as it relates to technology and implementing technology into our business. And so whether that's POS systems, whether that's usage of social platforms and e-commerce, dynamic pricing, our revenue strategies and how we sell our admissions, all the way up to how we engage in business, you and me, with our all you can, basically free fountain drinks at our
Right.
park.
Yeah.
Why we
It's
implemented that. And so it's all of it is done to provide a better guest experience. And if you start there and you're open to other technologies and you look at it in other industries, and the talent or the skill is to say, okay, they're using it here. How are they using it? Why are they using it? And can I use it in our business? And then you give it a shot. You try it. Some have succeeded, some have failed, and that's how our business has evolved. The park itself, the mechanicals, the slides, the technology really hasn't changed since the birth of a water park. It's pretty simple. It's PVC pipe, it's a pump, and it moves water,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um,
That's
you know,
it's like gravity. That's not going anywhere, Glenn.
That's exactly right. You walk up a stairwell and you slide down a slide. It's
Yeah, you get up
tremendous
high,
fun.
you get up high, you lubricate the slide with water, and you go down.
That's it. It's water, it's splashing, and families having a great time together. I mean, the concept of a water park is very simple. Sometimes, people try to overthink that. And look, there's some water parks out there that have implemented technology on their attractions to make it more fun, more dynamic, more a different experience, LED lights and effects and all of that. At the end of the day, it's pretty simple. But how we do business is very dynamic. We change constantly.
Well, Glenn, let me ask you this, man. When a customer, I want to kind of paint a picture of Gulf Islands a little bit before I'll let you go.
Yeah,
So the customer, so people listening, if they've never been, they can kind of know what to expect. But you guys are open, so you guys are open 85 days a year, which is like you said, it's a interesting business model because you're gearing up, you're all hands on deck, and then there's a high seasonality of like taking time off. When someone walks into the park, what can they expect? And then let's talk a little bit about some of the amenities and like food options and cabanas and that kind of thing.
yeah. I mean, you park your car, you walk to the entrance. I hope you have purchased your ticket already. We get you through the entrance as quickly as possible. You're met with seasonal team. And, we haven't talked about that, but our role in the community, about how many people we've employed over 20 years, their first job, things like that. It's a huge impact for me personally and from the community. Is we get the feedback all the time. So I'm hoping as a guest you see those smiles, the young faces. And now you walk in and I hope there's a wow factor. You see the wave pool straight ahead of you. You see a tower to your right, which is the Master Blaster and the Camille Cutter family wrap ride. And to the left, is our amenities, our food and beverage, our gift shop. And frankly, you got your lockers, which, by the way, more technology, right? Smart lockers where you're not
Mhm.
having a key and a lock and all of that. You just walk to the bank of lockers. It's all trying to make your experience with the water. I want you to experience the water more than standing in line. And so, because the more you're in water, the more you're engaged with others, your family, your loved ones, and you're having a good time. One of the things that I absolutely love about water parks is the fact, especially, today's world, there's something that does not mix well, is a cell phone and water. And you're in a lot of ways forced to put your phone away and really engage with the entertainment, the experience, and those who you were with. And there's not a lot of choices out there. There's not a lot of places for parents to take their kids where the cell phone has to be put away and they can really spend time together. And I
I've
just
never thought about it
absolutely,
like that.
yeah, I love that about our business.
That's awesome,
Um,
man.
yeah, and look, you see them pull it out and they're taking videos, but even that is a lasting memory. When they are using it, they're capturing their day. And those are the memories that last a lifetime, right? It's the memory in the moment because you're fully engaged and you're not distracted with a phone. Or when you do pull out the phone, you're documenting the visit. And I think sometimes we don't really stop and think about that, but that's
Right.
the impact of a water park.
That's
It's those
awesome.
summer memories. Yeah.
Yeah, I never thought about it like that, but you are very, very true. Like you're not going to be doom scrolling on your phone at a water park. It's not happening.
Yeah, and even if you're just your mom lounging on a chair, you're sweating over your phone. It's just,
Yes.
yeah, I hope you're sweating. I hope it's hot. I hope the sun, is out and it's not raining. And you're just enjoying that day. Your kids are out running around and having a good time. If you're not out there engaging. So the cell phone really it's a limited use item once you enter a water park, which is wonderful for me.
Well, Glenn, I want to go ahead and plug the park. Let the listener know where they can go and order tickets and sign and kind of let them know where the park is. That way, if anyone's listening, if you have not been to Gulf Islands Water Park, I would highly recommend it. So Glenn, go ahead and tell the listener where they can, if they want to buy tickets, where they need to go, and your times of operation and where you're located.
We're open daily during the season, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. We are located just north of I-10 between Highway 49 and Canal Road exits in the Gulfport Sportsplex. So those are the key words to find us, if you will. Our website is the main website is soakinfun.com, SOAKNFUN.com. And you'll see actually, as you know, we've purchased Blue Bayou Water Park in Baton Rouge. This is
Yes.
our first year operating Blue Bayou. So when you go to soakinfun.com, you'll see the logos of both parks and pick your park. And so that's where you would buy tickets in advance, get your information. And I would really recommend people following our social platforms. We put out a lot of great content that reflects, what your experience is going to be like. We have a lot of fun with our pages, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and we try to portray from a guest perspective, from our crew's perspective, how much fun we have every day. And then obviously we give you updates in our stories. So, and the unfortunate days that we have weather, we don't close very often. We try to stick it out. As you know, in South Mississippi, rain kind of happens quickly and leaves us.
Yes.
And so we do not close when it rains like that. We stick it out, and you bought your ticket, you bought your season pass. We want to give you as many hours as possible to enjoy the value of that.
Well, Glenn, I've taken up too much of your time. I really appreciate the conversation. It's always interesting and fun to have a chat with you. Thank you for coming on, and you have my number if you need anything. And we still need to get together and kind of put our heads together on some advertising marketing things.
I'm looking forward to that. I know the first time we met a couple of years ago, we hadn't contracted yet on our pouring rights agreement, but you stopped by, you introduced yourself, and I really did appreciate that. And the takeaway then was, your background in marketing and our world was shifting with social pages and e-commerce just with technology and dynamic pricing at the time. And so I'm also looking forward to sitting down, picking your brain,
Oh yeah,
exchanging ideas. As I said earlier, I'm fortunate enough to have businesses in different industries, and there's a lot of touch points for me, and what you're doing in your business, there are things that I can apply to mine and vice versa. And so it's always great to just sit down and have a cup of coffee and talk business, and especially marketing and sales. And those are that's the heartbeat of a business,
Absolutely.
especially
Absolutely, Glenn.
forward facing to the customer. So I look forward to our relationship continuing, and
Yes.
I'm really happy that we're moving forward with you guys over in Gulfport. So thank you.
Yes, me too, Glenn. I really appreciate the opportunity. And, I hope that everyone is happy on your staff with our service. And I pride myself in our ability to be able to handle what we need to handle, whatever customer size, big or small. And you guys are an important customer for us. It's the first time we've had an opportunity to do business with you guys over the last 21 years. And I really appreciate it. And I'm excited about it. And I think it's just going to get better and better each year. So.
Yep.
So, Glenn, one last time, where would the customer go if they're wanting to find more information about Gulf Islands or Blue Bayou and where to purchase tickets?
Yep. Soakinfun.com, SOAKNFUN.com. You get day tickets, season passes, cabanas. Everything is right there on our e-commerce platform, information and the ability to buy tickets and prepare for your visit to either park.
All right. Thank you so much, Glenn.
Andrew, it was a pleasure. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thanks so much for joining us on Bottled Up. Huge thanks to Glenn Haggerty for sharing his journey from growing up with 3 older brothers to leading Gulf Islands Water Park. 3 things that really stood out to me today: the importance of adapting your leadership style, the power of finding joy in your work, and how innovation like dynamic pricing keeps a business thriving. If you're looking for a fun, memorable day with your family, be sure to check out Gulf Islands Water Park or Blue Bayou Water Park. Grab your tickets at soakinfun.com. That's SOAKNFUN.com. For Bottled Up, I'm Andrew Allen. Thanks for listening, and until next time, remember to always support local businesses, restaurants, events, and attractions. Cheers. Thanks for listening to the Bottled Up Podcast. Want us to deliver this show to your email inbox as they drop? Want to tell us about how you like the show? Or do you want to tell us about a Gulf Coast business or restaurant that you'd like for us to spotlight in any upcoming episodes? Email Ashton McEwen at abevinc.com. That's AMCKEOWN at ABEVINC.com. That's ABEVINC.com. Want to know more about Allen Beverages and how we work with our clients, partners, and vendors? Check out allenbeverages.com. This show was edited and produced by Johnny Gwynn and Deep Fried Studios.